I think that there is a general fear that finance is just too complicated and there are financial crises all the time, so these guys are too smart. First, I think lots of people fear to start. And then second thing is that they don't know where to start. My advice for these two things is don't fear, it's not too complicated. And where to start wherever you want. The thing is, people misunderstand all these things, and it's like, yeah, investing money is important, and earning more money is important. At the end of the day, it's also this gap, and can you control what you spend? Because you can always spend everything.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Walk to Wealth podcast. If you're tuning in on YouTube or any of the podcast directories, make sure to do yourself one teeny tiny little favor and give us a follow, because I don't want you to have FOMO and miss out on any of the amazing guests that I'm bringing on this year. So without further ado, let's get right into this one. Tristan, for anyone who hasn't had the opportunity yet to get to know you, to get to meet you yet, tell us your elevator pitch. Who are you and what do you do?
Hi, John. Thanks for having me. So who am I? Let's say I'm an entrepreneur. I do a lot of different things. I do advisory, consulting. I run a small media on fintech. I give classes on fintech. I also, I'm launching another business with a few people, a couple of businesses actually with different business partners. So let's say I keep busy. Let's simple as that.
Amazing. And so one of my favorite questions I always like to start off with is, man, take us back in a time machine. What was it like growing up? What was money like in your household? What was it like being a kid? When did this all start to come up?
I think so. I mean, I grew up in moving around quite a lot around France. I lived also in Middle East. So let's say I grew up in a household that was comfortable with money, but at the same time, my parents taught me about money, about how to manage it, and I always felt quite interested by finance and by money. That's how I ended up going to business school and studying finance and working in banking after that. I always felt that it was quite cool to understand how everything works. I still don't understand everything about finance, but I understand quite enough.
Yeah, what was it like moving around? So you said you were in France for a little bit, you were in the Middle East. A lot of times people haven't really experienced a move, and moving, countries is it's a big deal, right? So what was it like moving around in your childhood, and how did that impact you as a kid?
I think it brings you different perspectives. That especially, I lived in Jordan in Middle East between the age of 9 and 13. So which are years where you kind of you grow from a kid to some kind of annoying teenager, but you learn a lot of things. And so, for instance, English. I learned English much earlier than most people in France. I think it brought. After that, I felt okay. I need to live in lots of different places. So that's how I ended up also studying in the Netherlands, and then after that, I lived in the UK for 6 years, and now I live in Spain, and it's been 3 years. So I think it's bringing into you this kind of desire to meet new people and go to lots of different places.
So let me ask you, so you did a lot of moving around, and then as a child, you ended up going into finances. Around, your early adulthood, was it something that you had your set in stone, like, I'm going to do this is going to be something I do the rest of my life? Or was it something like you were kind of interested in, and then it ended up just happening to stop, go with it? Because a lot of people around that age is like, they think they know what they want to do, but then they end up realizing that, hey, I actually don't want to do it. What was it like for you figuring it out, man? Because you always kind of had a thing for money. So what was it like in your early adulthood?
So I guess, I mean, when I was in high school, I really wanted to go to business school, and actually at that point I wanted to become a trader because I'd seen a few movies, and I seen a few documentaries and movies, and I was like, okay, you know what, I want to be a trader on Wall Street. So that was my goal when in high school. So that's how I decided I wanted to go to business school to become a trader. But then as I studied, I realized actually it wasn't the type of finance I wanted to do. And then I went more into corporate finance. And this is what I did after through business school. I went to do M&A in London, and then after that, I went into corporate finance for a bank, so internal corporate finance team. So, but yeah, I think I kind of always wanted to do that, but same time I had some highs and lows. At some point in high school, I had like bad grades, so I thought, okay, there's no way I'm gonna go to business school, and I managed to correct course the last couple of years, and then I managed to get in, but I think the goal was always there, but at some points I didn't believe so much in it, and I thought, well, I'm not gonna make it. But I managed to course toward the end of high school.
And so you say you didn't get so you said there were some bad grades in high school. Was it because like you just weren't focused? Like what was going on? Because it's one of those things where it's hard. I feel like school. I know at least here in the States it's different. See, school was something that I always found relatively easy, but it's just for me. My issue was I always had decent grades, but it's just like there was no motivation to do so because it's like I knew that what I was learning was completely useless, and it was not going to help me in my life. So for me, it was hard for me to find the motivation to do work. I still got the job done, but it was hard for me. So like, what was that for you? Like, what was the reason that school didn't, in some of the classes at least, you suffered a little bit?
So I think I wasn't in the right school. So what changed is that I ultimately changed school, and I got much better grades in the other one. And I was in a different kind of. So in France, you have different programs, so focused on certain subjects. And so what I did is that I completely changed that. And I changed school, changed topic, and so I wasn't so interested in what I was doing, like biology and physics and all that stuff, and I was just bored. And then changed school, and I started studying marketing and accounting and like more practical like business stuff because
Yeah.
it was a different high school like, degree, let's call it. And then suddenly I had so much more interest in what I was learning, and so that changed completely, and my grades kind of skyrocketed at that point, and that helped me into getting into a good school after that. But yeah, I think it was just the environment, and sometimes it has nothing to do with your brain or whatever. It's just that you're not in the right environment. So for me, it was that school wasn't working for me, but the things I was learning weren't working. So I changed, and then suddenly everything was fine. So sometimes it's just you need a change, and to start from a fresh start.
Definitely get it for you. It's one of those things where your environment has a big factor in who you are. And for school, see, that's one of the things that I think the States, it would be helpful if they picked up because we're all given the same curriculum. At least if you go to public schools here in the States. And so it's like, regardless of whether you like, business or whether you like, biology or whether you like physics or whatever it is, we all take the same stuff and we don't all learn the same ways. We don't all gravitate towards the same subjects. And so being forced to take all the same curriculum is actually a disservice to a lot of people, I feel, which is why I personally don't like the school system here in the States, at least, and why I relied so heavily on YouTube and books and other things like that. So fast forward a little bit. So you picked a school that was better suited to what you actually enjoyed doing, which is more the practical business side of things, and ended up getting your finance degree and going to corporate finance. So now you're in the fintech space. So how did that come about? When did you start learning about getting into fintech? And tell us about what you do now.
Yeah, sure. So as I said, so I moved to London, and then for an internship actually in M&A. So I did this for 6 months. M&A, mergers and acquisitions. So where you work a lot, like helping businesses buy other businesses or sell whatever business they have. So it was quite interesting, but quite intense. So what I took my first job was in the corporate strategy team. It's called corporate development. So it's a internal team in large organization that this team, what they do is that they do business planning, basically business planning, developing strategic alliances with other businesses, and also whenever they want to sell a part of the business or buy another business. So you have this team. So I joined this team to work on the IPO. So it was kind of complex situation where it was a UK subsidiary of an Australian business, and they were carving out this business and doing an IPO in London. So I worked on this, which was quite interesting. And after that,
What's an IPO for anyone that doesn't know?
It's a public listing.
But for anyone that doesn't understand business, what is that? What does that mean?
So it means you go from being a private business. So like most businesses are private businesses, and then suddenly you're going to list your shares on the stock exchange, so anybody can buy it. So this is how you go from like Tesla is a public business. Lots of large businesses have done IPOs and are now publicly listed. So I worked on that, which was quite cool. Then after that, we were public business, and then doing much more business planning. So trying to understand what we were as a business and what were the different things happening in the space. So obviously we were a bank. It's still a bank, but a bank is impacted by new entrants in the market. And this is not long ago, but I'm talking 2015, 16. And it's when fintechs started to appear, like much more. So you had a few that were starting to be very visible. And so as part of when you're running the strategy of the business of a bank, you're like, hey, there's these new guys, they're doing FX, or there's this new digital app. What the hell is going on? So suddenly you have lots of new entrants. So within the team, I started focusing much more on innovation and new fintechs that were coming to the market. And this is where I started developing my interest into new businesses, new business models, innovation, and so this is what started back then. And fast forward, I then launched a media to follow fintech, and then I launched my own advisory business, working a lot with fintech companies, trying to help them grow and develop better strategies.
That's amazing. So now, finances is something, at least in the States, I'm not sure how it is in Spain or France or the Middle East, but at least in the States, it's something where majority of Americans are terrible with money, like absolutely horrible. I think credit card debt just reached the all-time high. It's like consumer debt is just terrible right now. So like, how do people start getting good with money, and how does fintech help with, help the average everyday consumer get better with their money?
I mean, just shortly, that people are bad with money everywhere. I wrote a report for a fintech company about the personal finance in the UK, and I can tell you it's as terrible as it is in the US. And well, I think that for me, what I always tell people, to get better with money, you just need to, get on and try to understand what's going on, try to understand basic concepts. But everybody can learn, like literally, learn about like how to save money, how to invest, different type of investments. It's really not rocket science. I mean, and I think you can learn the basics, and then later on is that you learn the basics, you're going to learn this week how, this type of asset class works. Oh, I'm going to learn exactly how to invest in real estate. Okay, let's go. Let's do this. And then next week, you're going to learn a new thing. And this is how you learn over time. And, when I started working in finance, I wasn't an expert, but obviously fast forward almost 10 years, then yes, I have accumulated quite some knowledge, but I still don't know everything. And in 10 years, I'll be better. But because every week I want to learn new things, and I dive into things, and I write reports and I write articles, and I get interested in things. So I think you need to be interested and you need to want to learn, and then it's the beginning of the journey.
See, so let me ask you, because it's easier said than done, right? Because the information's out there on YouTube, right? The information's out there on there's probably like 100,000 different podcasts on entrepreneurship and business and finances, right? Probably even more, probably like 1 million or something. I don't know. There's a lot of podcasts out there. And it's just like, for most people, what stops them from learning? Because the information is free. Like this podcast is free, YouTube is free, most books cost virtually nothing. Like $10 in the grand scheme of thing isn't all that much money, right? Even at like minimum wage, it's just an hour of work, depending on where you live. At least if you're in the States, right? That's an hour of work. It's like, why don't people invest on learning this stuff? Because the information is out there.
I think that there is a general fear that it's too complicated, you wouldn't understand. So there's this fear to get into it, and oh no, finance is just too complicated, and there are financial crises all the time. So these guys are too smart. But actually, it's not. So first, I think lots of people they fear to start. Which is blocking them. And then second thing is that they don't know where to start. So they feel like, okay, it's just too vast and where should I start? But then you can start from anywhere. And basically if you go into one specific topic, then you're going to have lots of terms that you don't know. And then, okay, I'm going to go and learn this. And then, maybe it can feel like a rabbit hole, but actually this is how you get into something. So let's say, I don't know, you want to, as I said, you want to learn about stocks, and then you're like, okay, how does it work? Then you're going to learn about IPO. Okay, what is an IPO? Okay, and why do people do that? What is the process? What are the alternatives? Okay, and so that's how you dive into a topic. Then at some point you will get around it, more or less, and then you take another one. But you start somewhere, but there is no, you can take, let's say, a family of topic. Let's say you say, let's go for personal finance. Okay, let's learn about personal debt, and this is how you get into like this particular topic. But you need to start somewhere. So I feel, it's these two things, like the fear, and people don't know where to start. But my advice for these two things is don't fear. It's not too complicated. Just go into it, and where to start wherever you want. It's endless anyway. As you say, there are lots of information. Literally, Wikipedia is a great place. Investopedia is a great place. There are lots of places, YouTube, podcasts, but just start one. You need to start somewhere.
Yeah, no, definitely 100%. It's one of those things where I always say when it comes to personal finances, I think just understanding money and how it works a little bit is definitely, I think where people should definitely start. Understanding money and then tracking it probably. I need to do a better job of tracking my expenses. That's something that I've been slacking on. And then from there, figuring out how to make more of it, how to grow your money. I think one of the things, at least for me personally, everyone says, start investing just $5 a day or $10 a day or something, or $5 a week or whatever you can. And it's like, primarily my audience is like people closer to my age. There's a lot of people from all over the place, right? In all different walks of life and all different ages. But for like the younger crowd, I feel like it's so important to just learn money and how to make more of it. Because like, let's say I invest $100 a day, right? At the end of the year, I have $1,200. Let's say 8%, not $1,200. Yeah, $1,200, but 8% interest rate, or 8% growth. That's like what, $1,280 at the end of the year, something like that, or maybe like $1,300. That's rough numbers. $1,300, right? After, I invest in the S&P 500 and it grows. If I take that same money and then I invest it in a course, right? And then that $1,000 course teaches me how to make $10,000. Well, now I have a whole lot more money to invest. And I think where a lot of people get the game wrong is like, they're trying to save their way to success. And there's a lot of people who are like in a personal finance space, I feel, that teach money and say, oh, here's how you invest in this and blah, blah, blah. And how you invest in your, Roth IRA and your 401k and stuff like that. And majority of people don't become successful doing that, right? That's just a safety blanket, right? You're not going to get rich off of a 401k or a Roth IRA. But the people teaching it, they're going to get rich off of that because they're going to create a course on how to invest in a Roth IRA, and they're going to have people buy the course, and they're going to get loads of money from it. While the people who are investing in the Roths are like barely able to still get by, and they have to wait 40 years or 50 years to be able to tap into the money. So I always say, if you want to get started, just learn, how money works and then how to make more of it. And that should be like the sole focus. Because if you get to a point where, let's say I get to a point where I'm making $200,000 a year, right? And let's say I keep my living expenses still relatively low. Well, then instead of having $100 at the end of every month to invest, I'll have, it may take me longer to get there, but I'll have maybe $50,000 every year to invest instead of the 1,200. But it took me a little bit of a delayed start. But let's say you have a 5-year head start on me, and then year 5, I invest my first $50,000. Well, I already caught up to you and probably passed you. It took me a while, but I focus on growing my income versus making a little bit of small invest savings. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that for me, like where you start, the obvious start is understanding this is my level of income, this is my expenses, this is my savings capacity, this is my investment capacity. As you say, the thing is, of course, you can save money, but it's not your avocado toast and your coffee that is gonna make you retire. At the end of the day, just calculate how much. And for instance, maybe actually it's your mortgage that is a bigger impact, or your rent. And so, of course, tiny things are fine, but it's, as you say, it's not changing anything. What matters is how big the difference between your income and your expenses. Of course, like saving money and investing it is important. But as you say, also it's how do you maximize your income. And so I think you need to balance. And for me, what people misunderstand is this gap. And the problem is, if you earn 500K and you spend 480K, you have 20K. And if you have spent all this money, not, I'm saying spending, not investing it, you're not richer than someone that earns 100 and spend 80. That's the reality. But the thing is, people misunderstand all these things. And it's like, yeah, like investing money is important and earning more money is important. At the end of the day, it's also this gap. And can you control what you spend? Because you can always spend everything. And we live in a day, you can have a bigger house. You can live in New York in a penthouse. It's going to cost you money. So you're going to need to make more money. And, so and I agree with you as well, is that there is investing in yourself and trying to see how, like, what you're doing now is going to bring you further. So maybe you're going to sacrifice. So launching a business, at first, it's hard and, you're not going to make a lot of money. But you need to think, okay, but if I do it well, where am I in 2 years? I'll be in a better place. Well, if everything goes well, I'll be in a better place than if I work for someone. Working for someone, for instance, well, most of the time you're not going to make a lot of money. I mean, you're working for someone, you're working for him to get richer eventually because you're growing his business. So, for instance, what is the cut I'm taking now to start my business? And this business might grow into something that is much bigger, as you say, in 5 years. Okay, well, in 5 years, maybe with my job, if I evolve a bit, blah blah, I'll make 200K. Cool. If I launch my business goes well, grow, blah blah, I'll make 500K. Okay, so but first year I make zero. Do I take this? But I'm taking this risk, and I am investing in myself. And a lot of people kind of don't understand this saying, this risk reward and investing into your future self and the potential rewards that you might have down the line. But yeah, so I agree with you, is that it's not as simple as investing $100 a month for the rest of your life. Yeah, you'll have a bit of money, but maybe you'll have more by doing other things.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. I kind of want to ask you to change the topic a little bit, and because I know you have a blog that you run on, finance and fintech. What was your favorite blog that you've written? What was your favorite topic that you covered?
For me, fintech, I like it as an intersection of business and finance and economics. So, and technology, obviously, as well. Because for me, fintech is not just finance and technology, because every time you talk about finance, you go into economics. And because I studied economics as well, so I like to see how some stuff that you might see not related are actually quite related. So for instance, I like to look at how the central bank moving interest rates, this has an impact on the way banks run, and more specifically the way it creates an advantage for larger banks like Wells Fargo and JP Morgan, it creates for them an advantage against other guys like Chime or like neobanks. So I wrote an article about this, and I quite like it because for me, these kind of topics are quite complex, and they are a mixture of economics, finance, technology, innovation. But yeah, I mean, I've written quite a lot of stuff over the past 3 year and a half. But yeah, I wrote something about interest rates and neobanks, which I still recall as being quite fun to write.
All right, man. Interesting. You dropped a lot of nuggets on this episode, man. Where can we find you at? Where can we connect with you if we wanted to learn more about what you have going on and all the fintech stuff you're doing?
So you can find a lot of the things I rumble about on fintechreview.net, where you can sign up for my newsletter, where every week I talk about what's going on in fintech. You can find me on Twitter, fintech_review, as long as Twitter still exists. And you can also find me on LinkedIn, where I write more about strategy execution, more like business stuff rather than fintech.
All right. And now it's time for our famous 5 questions. And question number 1, what is the most impactful lesson you've learned in life?
That I will not get rich working for someone else.
What is the most admirable trait a person can have?
Being humble.
What is the legacy that you're trying to leave behind?
I'm trying to show that you can work hard, still have fun, and that retirement is not the goal.
If you had to change someone's life, but you only had one book to give them, which book would you recommend?
I will give that person, it's a strategy book from Harvard. I think it's like the 5 best strategy articles or something like that. I have it somewhere. It's a really good book.
Okay, and then last question. If someone wanted to embark on their walk to wealth today, what would you recommend the first step be?
I would recommend going to Wikipedia, type personal finance, and dive in the topic.
Amazing. All right, Tristan, that is all for this episode. Thanks again for hopping on. Thanks again for dropping on the nuggets as you did, man. And it was great staying in touch, man.
Thanks for having me. That's cool.